Hi again, it's Lauren from Blue Mountain Wellness. I am here with one of my newest patients for the TYB 12 program, Justin Albert. He is a professional chef, so I decided to take advantage of that and ask him to come in and do one of his favorite things to do on the first phase of the TYB 12 program. So welcome, Justin. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And just before we start, you just shared with me that you've been 14 days on the plan and
Yes.
you've lost
27 pounds.
27 pounds already. Now, he eats better than most of us eat any day doing any diet, so he's going to share with us some of the recipes that he uses to kind of have that success so far. So I'm excited. What are we making today?
Today we are going to do some steak fillet strips along with a roasted potato and then a salad with a strawberry vinaigrette.
Yes! I don't have to cook tonight.
All
Yes.
stuff that can fit into the
Into the
parameters of the program.
That's what we want.
So yeah.
Excellent. So you did some pre-preparing of the meat here.
I did. So I took the fillets and I drizzled them with some olive oil, seasoned them with salt, pepper, and garlic powder on both sides, and then I cut them into strips just to get them ready for the cooking process. With the strawberries, I already went ahead and washed those and got those cut so that those are ready for the vinaigrette when we go to make that.
Perfect.
And we already have our potato in the oven roasting and getting ready for that aspect.
Full disclosure, it should be a sweet potato, but it was in the wrong bin at the market. So it's a white potato, which is allowed in phase 2. But phase 1, you want to do the sweet potato with that.
And in my opinion, the sweet potato is going to taste better.
It's better anyway, right? Yeah.
Which, that was another question.
Yeah.
Cinnamon, an okay
Yeah,
ingredient?
cinnamon's good.
Because I would say cinnamon is great
Cinnamon
on
is
sweet
great.
potatoes.
It's a good. It's good, healthful supplement for you as well.
So that would be another tip.
Yeah.
Sprinkle a little cinnamon on the potato when it comes out,
especially
just
for
to give it a nice
diabetics.
flavor.
Cinnamon's real good for you.
Awesome.
Excellent.
All right, so we got our pan here heating up already.
Yep.
It's warm. So we're going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil here, just to work as our cooking medium. We're going to let that drift around, coat the whole pan.
But what kind of heat do you like for this, Justin?
About a medium heat is best. You don't want to go too high, but then at the same point, you want to be high enough heat that it can sear the meat to trap the flavor and also to trap the moisture in so that you get a nice, well-cooked steak.
Excellent.
Because if you cook a steak too slow, all the blood comes out of it and it loses all the flavor then, and you're left with a piece of beef jerky. So
We don't want that.
medium to a medium high, depending on how thick the piece of steak is. If it's a thicker piece, I would go medium high heat, just to get a good sear on it. And then once I get a good sear on the one side, I would flip it over and then turn it down to a medium heat to finish cooking.
Let it sear and then turn it
Yeah.
down. Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
our oils.
And you said you primarily cut this into strips just so that it cooks faster for a weeknight meal?
Yeah, it gives you faster cook preparation, and also that way, if you don't like medium rare or rare steak, it cooks all the way through to a nice well done, but it's still tender, juicy, and very flavorful.
Very good.
So now we've got our pan hot, we're gonna go ahead and start adding our steak strips in. You want to allow a little bit of space between each one just so the heat can come up through and help give you an even
Oh, the silicone ones
or
are a
slippery.
little slippery. So do you cook for yourself every night?
Most nights.
Most nights?
My wife is Italian, so
So she cooks as well?
yes.
That's awesome. So yeah, I've heard that with chefs that to relax after working at the restaurant all day, they go home and cook. I don't quite get that.
Yes, I do that.
Yeah.
That is my favorite way to relax.
I always said I love to cook, but I hate the obligation of cooking. You know, when you have young kids and you've got to cook for them.
Yeah, that's not as much fun.
Yeah. And it's like you're tired. But if you learn stuff like this and you just kind of prepare and shop in advance and know what you want to do for the week, this doesn't take very long at all.
And the difference to this is when you're cooking for kids, you're cooking to survive. This, you're cooking to live.
To live and to love.
You want to live and enjoy your life, and good food is the best way to do that. So.
Absolutely. And hopefully we're finding a way to do that in a healthy manner.
Yes, exactly.
Very good.
All right, so you have that. It's starting there. We can start getting our vinaigrette here made up.
Fantastic.
Here, stand this way so you're not cut out of the frame.
So we're on.
So what I will do with my vinaigrette is I always cut my strawberries first,
Yep.
and then I add my vinegar second, because that way the strawberries will actually wick up some of the vinegar
Oh,
to help balance the flavor. And they also start to chemically cook the strawberries just to make it a little bit easier for it to break down and puree up and just make a better
Fantastic.
vinaigrette flavor.
didn't know that.
So generally I would start with about a cup of fresh strawberries, and I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons, I'm sorry, of vinegar, and just going to toss that around, let them cool. We'll let that sit like that. We can go ahead and add about a teaspoon of salt. And I personally would recommend using Himalayan salt. I like the mineral flavor that it has. We also have our black pepper. Do about half a teaspoon of black pepper. And we're just going to do half a teaspoon of garlic powder as well.
And that's the powder, not the salt.
Right.
So you can control the salt level.
And with garlic powder does have an okay flavor, but granulated garlic has a much better flavor.
Yep.
So that's just a little tip
Yep.
to give you a nice strong garlic flavor for it. But for a strawberry vinaigrette, you don't want it to be too overpowering with garlic. So our meat here is seared nicely on the one side. We're going to start flipping this over so it can cook evenly. Now I generally like my steaks medium rare.
Yes.
I really won't even cook steaks for somebody over medium, just because on principle I think it destroys
For
the
the
steak
most
at that
part,
point.
yes. My daughter likes it, my oldest, almost rare. Like we have to tell her, please don't, because it will get sent back if it's not even pink.
You always want to make sure your pan is centered evenly over your burner if you're using gas or electric, just to make sure all the meat is cooking the same speed and everything like that. It's always better to try and centralize your smaller pieces on the outside and keep your larger ones to the center where they're going to get more concentrated heat. Just so that way all your steak's going to finish up and be done at the same time.
Excellent.
All right, so back to this. We let that sit for a few minutes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add our olive oil, which we're going to do about 2 ounces of oil.
I love those stick blenders.
Very, very nice. Thinking this would actually work better in like a cup or something a little bit sweeter to get us a deeper mixing surface, but still gets the general idea.
Yeah.
You just want to pour a little dash of water in there, a little bit more.
Too much.
No, that's perfect. It's about an ounce is what you want. It just gives the dressing that smooth texture, which is what you want. And it's always best to use either a blender or a staff blender like this, or even a food processor to make a vinaigrette, because it will emulsify the dressing, which is where you whip the oil to the point that the ingredients stay suspended in the oil.
Okay. Ooh, look at that.
Because otherwise, if you make a dressing up like this and you don't whisk it well or add air to it to emulsify it, it's going to separate out really fast and you're going to not have as good of a product. So.
I have to try this. Oh my gosh. Nice. You could use that on just about anything too.
All right, so our steak here is done at this point, so we can get this put onto a plate here.
Or on the floor.
We're gonna save that piece for later.
You know what?
You have a fork, actually?
I do.
These tongs are just a little bit too slippery in my opinion. Now, another little tip, just to give you an insider view.
Yes.
If you have cooked a steak like this, stack it up in a pile.
Oh.
It'll help keep the bottom pieces warm until you get to them to eat them.
Oh.
So that way you don't eat the first couple pieces, so nice and hot, flavorful, and then the rest of your meal is cold. So.
Very nice.
Now, with any kind of steak, when you're cooking it, you always want to let it rest after it comes off the heat. I generally say 5 to 8 minutes is a good point.
Okay.
It really lets all the connective tissue and everything inside the steak to melt. And it just enhances the flavor and the tenderness of the dish. So
Very cool.
now we can come over here and check out our potato. So now with our potato, we cooked it through for about half an hour. And then we cut it down the center with a knife, drizzled some olive oil in there, and then sprinkled salt and pepper on it. And we also did baste it with olive oil about 10 minutes into the cooking process just to help the outside, the skin crisp up nicely. But then the olive oil that goes into the center of the potato really helps the potato to be creamy, and it helps that center just cook and just have such a nice flavor. It almost gives it a little bit of a nutty flavor because of the olive oil. So now we have our potato here. Go ahead, move this onto our plate. And then generally I would just crack it open just a little bit so it's easier to cut and enjoy. And even after it comes out of the oven, you could even hit it again with a little bit more olive oil.
Okay.
It gives you a nice creamy sensation as you're eating it, so it really gives you the full experience of having a baked potato.
A real
But
baked potato.
without, you know, the dairy and everything else.
The
So
dairy.
the fat.
And then we do have some organic greens that we have
Yep.
to finish things off. Again, get the help where you can from the grocery store. You spend it on chips, you might as well spend it on the best organic greens that they have.
Very true. Do you want me to just go ahead and build it on?
Yeah,
The
or I
plate.
can give you here,
We can do it on a separate plate.
let's make her look really pretty.
So with the mixed greens, the Canadian mix like this is a nice variety. You get a lot of different flavors from the different types of lettuce that are in it. The red mesclun mix in it actually gives you like almost like a peppery sensation, which is a great flavor,
Yes.
which really adds to any salad. And you can even also, after you're done, you can take a couple, I come from a long line of making food look nice, and even when I'm home, I like to have
Some sort
my
of.
food have a nice presentation to it. So
And again, especially when you're changing your lifestyle a little bit, you're changing your diet a little bit, you don't want to feel like you're eating, I always use the term prison food. You don't want
Right.
it to be like it's a punishment to eat this food. And hopefully you can see how nice it looks by treating yourself right and
And-
making it look
yeah, you
important.
make a nice presentation, and then you're rewarding yourself. You're giving yourself a treat, you know, so you don't think, oh, I'm just eating boiled chicken and,
Right.
you know, and carrots for the rest of my life type of deal. You know, you can think, you know, I could have nice food here. It makes you happy.
Yes.
It's one of the things I enjoy the most is looking at a well-prepared plating presentation.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and there we have our complete meal that is completely friendly with the diet.
TYB 12.
Yes.
I need to try some, I think.
Have that.
Have at it. All right. There's my knife. This piece right here.
I lost my sense of smell 20 years ago in my car accident. So it's made cooking
Oh my gosh.
a great challenge for me, but I cook from memory when it comes to taste, so I don't really ever taste anything while I'm cooking. I just focus on the ingredients that I'm using and the
So
quantities.
good.
And
Well, and you have the experience, you know. That is
Yes.
so delicious, so quick, doesn't take much. This vinaigrette, I gotta tell you, it's so simple. Everybody's got a blender or something that they can do.
Yes, it's so easy to make, but then you're cutting out all the preservatives and everything else you're gonna find in store-bought dressings and.
Now that'll stay in the refrigerator. The pre-made dressing that we made, that'll stay.
Yeah, it's usually good for about 2 weeks is the longest I want to keep it. And that's just because of the fact you're using fresh strawberries in it. And you can also substitute frozen strawberries; they work just as well.
Great.
The fresh ones give it a little bit of a crisper flavor, but it's still nice even with frozen ones if that's
In the
all you
winter,
have, so.
if that's
Yeah.
great.
And you can always change it up, mix it with blueberries. You can change out the fruit. I mean,
Raspberries and stuff like
it's
that
very,
as well.
yeah, very versatile. So.
Delicious. Get the ingredients. Try this today. We're gonna have the recipe posted for you. Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you can do this and have just as success Justin's had so far. Thanks for watching.